Oh, I actually went to Cafe Javas.
Well, let me just quickly move to the story that caught my eye. Now, I grew up knowing that prison and Abaganda have a saying that akwagalize komera akwagaliza kufa.
Antana.
Now, Antana. Now, we thought that a person, if they're in prison, they would love to get out the next day. Now, contrary, yesterday we saw the remanded women activists. These were arrested about last ago, and they were demonstrating, putting on shirts with words "Free Dr. Kizza Besigye." Now, they were arrested, aligned before court, and they were charged of public nuisance. Now, they were supposed to appear in court yesterday, but they wanted to put on their shirts that clearly have the branding, the picture of retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is in detention as we speak, and the word "Free Kizza Besigye." Now, the prisons authority told them that was not suitable attire if you're coming to court, because they said much as you must be in civilian clothes, but you must not be in clothes that portray political inclination, because you're coming to the temple of justice. So put on your civilian clothes, but they did not allow the ladies to come wearing those shirts. Now the ladies said, unless we are putting on these shirts to stand in solidarity with Dr. Kizza Besigye, because that is the reason even why we were arrested, we shall not go to court. They told them, okay, if you're going to court, then let's do Zoom. They said no, unless you want us to appear naked on Zoom. So they refused.
So let me ask Robert, has this always been the case, or in the past people have been charged even despite being dressed in attire that has a political inclination, or this is a new development? I
think this is a new development because there's always been people coming their civilian clothes. Most of the clothes in which they were arrested. So
if I was arrested in a T-shirt that has a particular candidate or the name of a particular party, I would be presented in court in the same clothes, right?
Well, court says you wouldn't be presented in court in the same clothes. There's actually a prison. Court has not spoken on this, but prisons believes if you're going to the temple of justice, you must go as neutral as possible, and you can't have attire that is speaking.
Is it the prison's role, though, to determine which clothes?
The Prisons Act does not specify what a person should put on while going to court. So far, what I've read. However, it talks about...
And my question here, Robert, is it the role of prisons to determine what clothes someone should wear in court, or it is the judiciary that would say, because of this, we allow this, we don't allow this? I need to have a distinction here.
You're putting me in a tight corner.
No, I'm trying to
I want to look at the law. I'll do this based on
what
I've read regarding the law.
Yes.
The Prison Act on dress code clearly talks about what an inmate should put on when in prison. That is the yellow, the red, whatever, the prison uniform.
Yes.
But when a person going to court, it talks about civilian clothings, your clothings. So
if I may ask Robert, does that mean that in case I do not have civilian clothes, maybe they were torn, maybe, I don't know, anything
during arrest?
Yeah, during arrest, I cannot attend court in my prison uniform?
No, you can't.
I cannot.
That much I know you can't. I've never seen prisoners being presented in court in prison's uniforms. But
because I mean, in this case with, you know, Deputy Lord Mayor, given that they are banning her from wearing what she was arrested in, the only alternative is for her to wear what she has to wear in prison. But anyway,
also
they can always improvise for you. They can improvise for you, because people get their various clothes. Your people come and they know you're going to court, so you can send for clothes. And I must be very honest, the shirts they were going to put on would have the same writing as they were arrested, but they were not those very clothes. That would mean someone had brought them in for them to put them on.
Well, in other news, the President, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, did start a tour in Ankole region, and we'll be giving you details of that in the local news. Speaking about the local news, Robert Chirabo takes us through that right about now.
Let me begin with that very story, where President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni kicked off his 5-day wealth creation tour of Ankole sub-region with a call to the masses to desist from land fragmentation and also embrace the 4-acre farming model. On his first day of the visit, Museveni checked on model farmers and parish development model successful beneficiaries in the district of Rubirizi, Shema and Uganda. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in Ankole sub-region for the wealth creation tour focusing on interacting with successful beneficiaries of the PDM program and model farmers. In Shema district, a Benawa Honest hosted the president. She is a renowned and established farmer doing cattle keeping, farming among others under a family venture of Pamoja Mixed Farm. Earlier, the president kicked off the day's wealth creation visit in Ankole from Desiranta to Musime's farm in Ruhinda district. Desiranta is a parish development model beneficiary doing piggery and goat rearing after receiving 1 million shillings in 2023. Ahimbisiwe Harriet, parish development model beneficiary from Uganda district, was the last farmer to host the president on his first day visit in Ankole sub-region. Now to Parliament. The Prime Minister Robert Nabanja put the leader of opposition, Joel Senyonyi, in order as he attempted to advise government on conducting operations in accordance with the law. During the plenary sitting, Nabanja stated that Joel Senyonyi was basing his argument on unfounded allegations which she urged made the government appear disruptive. The leader of opposition in Parliament, Joel Senyonyi, confirmed the release of National Unity Platform members who had been arrested by police. He alleged that police operations at the NUP headquarters in Kavule were unlawful and led to the destruction of property. The Prime Minister Robert Nabanja objected to the leader of opposition's statement, urging that it was baseless. The Speaker of Parliament was unaware of the incident. Senyonyi also submitted names of some political prisoners whose files had not yet been transferred from the court-martial to civilian courts, urging the Attorney General to take note of that. Anita Among was also displeased with the NUP for parading elderly people and Tesowo claimants in a bid of compensation. Meanwhile, the Speaker of Parliament directed the Minister for Education to issue a statement regarding the tragic death of a young schoolgirl who was killed and dumped in a school toilet in Teso. Still with the local stories, the Ministry of Health has appeared before the Committee on Environment and the Ministry of Finance to respond to domestic areas related to National Water and Sewage Corporation, particularly from health facilities across the country. Led by the Minister, Dr. Jenrutha Cheng, the ministry cited several contributing factors to the accumulation of these areas, including inadequate budget allocations and old health infrastructure. Although the ministry has implemented alternative water sources, such as boreholes at some facilities, National Water and Sewage Corporation has not accepted this as a solution, further emphasizing the need for more funding to maintain effective service delivery. Members of Parliament advised the ministry to plan better and prioritize utility cost, especially for essential services like water and electricity. The committee also suggested that health facilities cannot do away without water, hence emphasizing a potential debt swap between Uganda Revenue Authority, that is URA, and the National Water and Sewage Corporation through the main health. As of September 2024, the government owes National Water and Sewage Corporation 94.441 billion shillings, a significant financial strain that has hindered both service expansion and infrastructure development. Earlier this month, National Water and Sewage Corporation petitioned Parliament through the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources regarding unpaid water bills by various government ministries, departments and agencies. Among these were the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Defense, Uganda Police Force, and Uganda Prison Services. Some of these MDAs have since engaged with National Water and Sewage Corporation and the committee, promising to address the outstanding areas. Now, finally, from the local scene, the Ministry of Information, Communication, Technology and National Guidance is developing a policy on mindset change to boost youth productivity. The Commissioner, Communication, Moses Watasa, confirmed this while representing State Minister Godfrey Kabyanga at the International Youth Fellowship graduation. Hundreds of youth completed a free information, communication, technology and national guidance mindset change course. Integrating mindset change into ICT training aims to promote self-reliancy, job retention and reduce unemployment. The Ministry of Information, Communication, Technology and National Guidance is developing a policy on mindset change to enhance youth productivity and self-reliancy. This initiative aims at equipping young people with the right attitude and skills to maximize their potential in the job market. The Commissioner at the Ministry, Moses Watasa, confirmed this while representing the Minister. In cooperation, mindset change into information, communication, technology training, the policy seeks to reduce unemployment but also create youth that are capable for employment.
Now moving on, India is home to 1.4 billion people, but around a billion lack money to spend on any discretionary goods or services. This according to a new report that has estimated the country's consuming class, effectively the potential market for startups or business owners, is only about as big as Mexico, which is 130 to 140 million people, according to the report from Bloom Ventures, a venture capital firm. Another 300 million are emerging or aspirant consumers, but they are reluctant spenders who have only just begun to open their purse strings, as a click of button digital payments make it easy to transact. What is more, the consuming class in Asia's third largest economy is not widening as much as it is deepening, according to the report. That basically means India's wealthy population is not really growing in numbers, even though those who are already rich are getting even wealthier. All of this is shaping the country's consumer market in distinct ways, particularly accelerating the trend of premiumization, where brands drive growth by doubling down on expensive, upgraded products catering to the wealthy rather than focusing on mass market offerings. Now moving on, Hamas says it has reached a deal with mediators on the release of the 620 Palestinian prisoners and detainees who are due to be freed by Israel last week. Israel's military bombed sites south of the Syrian capital, Damascus, killing at least 2 people, saying that the presence of military means and forces in the southern part of Syria pose a threat to the country. UN spokesperson Stefan Durajic urges Israel to allow more tents and shelters in the Gaza Strip after 6 Palestinian infants died from hypothermia during a severe cold spell. Gaza's health ministry has confirmed 48,348 Palestinian deaths in Israel's war on Gaza, while 761 people have been wounded. The government media office updated its death toll to at least 61,709, saying thousands of Palestinians missing under the rubble are presumed dead. At least 1,139 people were killed in Israel during the October 7th, 2023 Hamas-led attacks, and more than 200 were taken captive. And lastly, more than 7,000 people have been killed in fighting in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo since last month, Prime Minister Judith Suminwa says, with a significant number of civilians among the dead. Speaking to the United Nations Human Rights Council in Switzerland on Monday, Suminwa warned that the security situation in Eastern DRC has reached alarming levels. About 3,000 deaths were reported in Goma, the capital of the Eastern DRC's North Kivu province, the Prime Minister said. She added that more than 2,500 bodies were buried without being identified, while another 1,500 was still in the morgues. There is a significant mass of civilians who are part of these dead, Suminwa said. Since January, the alleged Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group has captured swaths of the eastern DRC, including the key cities of Goma and Bukavu, the capital of South Kivu province. The group's rapid offensive has prompted concern from world leaders, including the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, who recently warned that the fighting could push the entire region over the precipice. Well, that does it for our international news. Now let's look at the press with Julie.
Yes, indeed. Let's look at S5 fees structure for big schools in Uganda. And very interesting that St. Mary's Kitende looks at 3.3 million Uganda shillings. Nabisunsa Girls there with 3 million Uganda shillings. Kawempe Muslim with 2.680 Uganda shillings. Gayaza High School is in there with 2.6 as well. King's College Budo with 2.553 million Uganda shillings. And all of this, by the way, is in the new vision. And the minister asks schools to be lenient with parents. That and more on page 7 of the new vision. But in our pictorial there is President Museveni, who started the wealth creation tours in Ankole. And there is President Museveni and other officials listening to Honest Abenawe Byamjisha during a guided tour of her Paramoja mixed farm in Kalyango Sel Shema district yesterday. But also MPs endorse new public service pension scheme, and more of that on page 4 of the new vision. And Semakula stakes home for bail, 60 billion Uganda shillings. More of that on page 10. But also looking at 14, vying for the Kawempe North seat on page 6 of the new vision. And first closed heart surgery done at Lira Hospital. More of that story on page 11. Searing heat, delayed rainy season explained. Page 28 of the new vision. And moving on, let's look at the Citizen inside the building material production versus cost paradox. And inside there on page 2, it's about the fact that despite significant growth in the construction materials industry, prices have remained stubbornly high, leading to increased building and rental costs across the country. And some figures have been placed on there. But also in the Citizen, it's the dawn of a new era as Kariaku now open for business 24/7. And NMB Bank redefining workplace excellence through employee well-being. More of that on pages 10 and 11 of the Citizen. But also, Samia pledges more science schools for boys nationwide. That story on page 2 of the Citizen. And DR Congo conflict, SADC technocrats meet in Dar es Salaam. Foreign Affairs Permanent Secretaries from 16 SADC member states yesterday began a 2-day meeting in Dar es Salaam to discuss ways on ending the conflict in eastern Congo. More of that story on page 2 of the Citizen. Looking at the Daily Nation, 16 billion of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission polls shocker. And this is because the budget is 19 billion Uganda shillings. Sorry, not Uganda shillings though, Kenya shillings, and more than the amount splashed in the 2022 general election by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and comes at a time when the country's healthcare system is in a mess. The capitation to public schools has not been disbursed, and the university funding model is in disarray. More of that story from page 4 to 5 of the Daily Nation. And there is a story more on the story of the Briton who was murdered in Kenya, and his body exposes dark secrets of Makango Forest in Makueni. But also, there is the SHA crisis, no deal to unlock billions after state-private hospitals talks. And also a story on Gachagua's Mount Kenya offer to Raila Odinga, which triggers a storm where a former deputy president says it's up to Odinga to decide whether he wants to play second fiddle to President Ruto or embrace Mount Kenya and be made president. That story on page 6 of the Daily Nation, but also on page 14 of the Daily Nation is a story of the Kenyan officer killed in Haiti who had planned to pay dowry in April. That's it from today's Press On. Good morning, Uganda.
Well, when we come back, we will be looking at the senior 5, the new students joining senior 5, but also looking at why teachers, at why there was poor performance when it came to the sciences, despite government's increment of payment for the science teachers. That and more will be in Good Morning Uganda when we come back. But for now, here is Goodness of God by C.C. Winans. Good morning once again. I'm Olive Monica Najuma, and this is Good Morning Uganda. Thank you for joining us. Now, we delve into our conversation for the newsreel. A couple of weeks ago, the Senior 4 results were released by the Uganda National Examinations Board. And as we speak, schools are preparing to welcome Senior 5 students, and parents alike and the students are also preparing to report to school come the month of March. But when you look at the performance in those exams, it is highlighted that sciences were poorly performed by many students. There are different reasons that the experts are giving, and we'll be looking into those as we continue with our conversation. But also we look at the abridged A-level curriculum and its viability. Is it anything new? Is it old? How are schools going to, carry it out? Are we continuing with some topics that many Ugandans have always made fun of, that they are not helpful to us as Ugandans or to the current job market requirements and needs? So much to look at in this conversation. So join us on WhatsApp number 0709-602-592. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and to help us understand the viability of the A-level curriculum is Philbert Baguma, who is the General Secretary of the Uganda National Teachers Union. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, madam.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Yes, and now, when I saw you last, we were talking about that was at the end of the release of the primary leaving examinations, and now the joining of secondary school. And I think we did have a conversation after the results. My mind is after the Senior 4 results. But anyway, it's good to have you back.
Yeah, talking about teachers.
Yes, we were talking about teachers. Yes. But it was around the same time.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm happy to have you back. Education in our country is one of the things that most passionate to me, or I'm very passionate about. So I'm always happy to have a conversation regarding the same. But now let's look at the performance. First of all, let me get your views regarding the Senior 4 performance, the grading that made us confused, sent us into our friends. We didn't understand what was going on.
Yes, but I think mostly those are the stakeholders who did not have children in the candidate class. Otherwise, those who have had children, the children have been coming home with the reports, and these reports have been having the same grading system.
The ABCDs, I remember the outstanding, the learning outcome.
Yes.
Outcomes, I remember those ones, but the ABC, I used to see the distinctions on the reports, the credits on the reports, not the ABCs. Mr. Waguma, let's be real here.
You know, when something is new, there is always that anxiety, there is always that excitement, and therefore even the schools were in that transition mode, and some would even use both the old grading and the new grading, so that maybe they make the parents and the guardians understand and interpret the report cards. But now when it came to the final results, of course the standard grading was brought into play. And you had in the public domain where parents were saying, we don't understand this. What do these mean? Obviously they are right, because something that is new, we always have that element of people saying, we don't understand this, what does this mean? And therefore, that calls for Ministry of Education and Sports to have a deliberate move, a deliberate effort to sensitize the stakeholders to own up the curriculum. Because whether you have gone to school or not, you need to appreciate the curriculum, own it, and then move on and know if your child has brought a report home, then they can even interpret it for you, even when you did not go to school, so that you know the competence level of your child. And this is what is in the public domain, and this is why you hear parents are still in that mode. But as time goes on, people will come to understand and appreciate what this grading means. Because unlike the past, where you would be rated failure, total failure,
Yes.
this one now appreciates that you have some effort and you have some level of understanding, although you are not at the same level
As those that had the A's and the B's and the C's. Now,
Yes.
let's look at the question of sciences and how poorly they were performed in the last seating of the examinations. When I had a conversation with the UNEB representative, that is Jennifer Kalule, one person wrote in, one of our viewers wrote in asking, if I got C's in sciences, can I go ahead and have a combination of sciences at A level? And she said, except if you highly believe in your capabilities, I would advise that you do not. I would advise that you try arts. But that put aside, what explains the poor performance of sciences? I mean, the teachers are earning good money right now, so we cannot use the excuse of, you know, you see, we are not being well paid, okay? So
Yes.
why the poor performance in sciences?
Yeah, first of all, if you have a good salary, but the environment you are working in is not conducive, you may not produce results. You need to have laboratories which are well equipped. You need to have what the learners need in order to facilitate their learning process. So when you go to a school and you find this room is meant to be a library, this room is meant to be a laboratory, and they are empty,
Even if you're earning 4 million,
it will not add anything, because the learning environment is not supportive
okay, I understand.
for
It's
the
like me
teaching learning process.
coming here and I'm ready to work, but there are no cameras.
There are no
or
cameras.
There is no sound.
So you will come here, sit, talk to yourself, and the viewers will not see you.
Okay,
Yes.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So that's what is going on with most teachers in different schools.
But even in some schools, the teachers are few, and the learners are very many, because with the introduction of USE, there are some schools which are really heavily populated. And you find the teachers are struggling with large numbers. Now, the teacher-learner interaction is not there, or it is just limited. And therefore, it becomes survival for the fittest. Because if you have a class of 120 students, then you don't expect much. Even the teaching methods which are expected to be applied may not apply, because you have 120 students in a classroom that was meant for 40 students. And therefore, you find you are really struggling to make ends meet, but you are not having a conducive environment for the teaching learning process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are speaking to Philbert Baguma, who is the General Secretary of the Uganda National Teachers Union. And we are looking at the new abridged curriculum for A-level. But of course, we first had a conversation regarding the released exams, that is the Senior 4 examination results, and the grading system that confused many parents. But also now looking at the other factor, the fact that sciences were poorly performed in the last sitting of examinations, despite teachers, that is the science teachers, having gotten a salary increment. But now we get into the meat of the matter, which is the curriculum itself. Now, you can join the conversation. You can ask questions to Mr. Baguma on WhatsApp number 0709 602 592. The same number is displayed on your screen. Now, Mr. Baguma, let's have a look at the new abridged curriculum. First of all, help us understand, what does abridged curriculum stand for, and what should we expect in this new curriculum?
Of course, having introduced the new lower curriculum for secondary schools, where we are transiting to competence-based, it must be a continuation. You cannot have competence-based at lower secondary, and when you go to A-level, you go back to the old system of knowledge-based curriculum. Now, the Ministry of Education and Sports came out and said it did not have enough time to have a complete new curriculum for A-level. They indicated they had constraints, and therefore they chose to have an abridged curriculum, which is maintaining most of the content in the old curriculum, removing some content which was redundant and others, in some cases, repeated. But you apply the new methodology
Of competence-based.
of competence-based
Okay.
on the existing content.
So how do I
And
apply?
then the grading system also changes
From what? From the A's we already have?
from the distinctions you were talking about now, now to the competence-based assessment system.
But Mr. Baguma, the A-level curriculum already has a different way of grading. They have A, which stands for 6 points,
Yes.
B, which stands for 5, C, which stands for 4, to, you know, as we
Yes.
go along.
Yes.
But of course, it has a failure as well.
Ye-
The A-level one?
Yes.
Is there F?
Yes.
Okay, so when we change that to competence-based, what will we change it to?
Now, the UNEB will come up with guidelines on this new assessment,
Okay.
because it cannot remain with the old assessment, which was examination-based. And yet, this one is now going to be continuous assessment, which discourages the examinations which are frequent from time to time.
Tests
They
in
want
the
to
morning.
assess you
Yes.
and your competence levels. And therefore, at the end of the cycle, at the end of the year, they are supposed to see how much do you know and how much are you able to do.
How much can you apply?
How can you apply what you have learned? And then they grade you and show you that you are at this level, you are at this level.
Okay.
But this simply means we shouldn't always wait to firefight at the end. Because as we started on the new curriculum for our secondary 4 years ago, obviously we knew these students would transit to A-level. And we did not do much. You can see the release of this abridged curriculum is 3 days to the opening of Senior 5. And you need to prepare these teachers, because teachers are not angels. There is a lot of excitement, because you are talking of, there is something new coming. People will be anxiously waiting for that new thing to see how it looks like and how it will be used.
Have the teachers been trained in this abridged curriculum, or there is no need?
Of course, they couldn't train them before it was released officially.
But then, how are they going to train them when it is released and when the students are already back in school?
Of course, that's what I was referring to as firefighting, because we need to plan better. While the transition was going on in the lower secondary, we should have prepared for A-level. And like now, we are looking at A-level. Those from A-level will transit to tertiary institutions and universities. And therefore, preparation must have begun yesterday. So that after Senior 6, these learners will continue with the mode of learning, the methods, and the assessment. So that it is transiting from one level to another, and we don't have this crisis where people have to wait and say, when is it coming? When are the teachers being trained? Of course, yes, the teachers will find a way of creatively and innovatively handling, but it will not be easy for them, especially the upcountry ones where the resources are not readily available. For these high-end schools, these in urban centers and peri-urban, they can have internal workshops and make things work.
Okay.
But for the rural of the rural, who are going now to go to the school portals to download these new changes, it will take time and the learners will be missing. And you know, A-level is just 2 years. Before you know it, they are going to Senior 6, and we need to plan better.
Okay. Do you think, in your perspective as a teacher with a wealth of experience, that this new version of the curriculum will better prepare students for university?
Of course, we normally fear change, but change is inevitable. And we need to devise means of making accountability for every learner who enters the school system. And therefore, this is an upgrade from what used to be there. Now, the issue is on preparation and implementation. You see, it can be something very good, but if it is not implemented very well, then it can end up in something different. So the curriculum itself, the grading and the assessment are okay and very okay, and would support the learners and would encourage the learners. But if you have the implementation which is haphazardly done, if we have these ill preparations, then of course they will leave gaps, and we shall at the end of the day say, this thing they brought us has caused us more harm than good. But it is not the new thing itself, but the process we are going through that may make it look different from the design.
Until we get used to it. Well, you did mention that partly the reason why sciences were poorly performed is the ratio of students to the teachers. Now, I have a comment coming in from Agomoko Siraji. He says, in line with the heavily populated schools, learners in a given school, I think heavily populated schools, why can't the schools regulate the number of learners, since we are having thousands of schools within the community, if at all heavy population leads to poor performance?
He has a very valid point, but you see the challenge has been government's investment in public education. You see, the parents have a tendency of looking for schools which perform slightly better.
Yes.
And that's why when, like now, you find long queues pointing to same directions, even moving distances and distances, but they are going to look for particular schools. Now, if investment in public education was adequate, then there would be no reason for someone to move 400 kilometers looking for a particular school. If schools were well equipped, if schools were well staffed, then the performance would be at par, and then you would not have reason why one school should be heavily populated and the other one is almost empty.
Well, thank you. And as we close, Ronald asks two questions. And he says, why is it that teachers' union is quickly subdued by government, especially when it comes to salary bargaining? I don't know if this is a conversation you want to get into, but Mr. Baguma will have a small comment. And then the next question is, when should arts teachers expect increase in their pay? Remember, science is not independent. It's not taught alone.
Yes.
I think we can be brief. This must be a teacher.
Of course, there are concerns. One,
yes.
The environment at the workplace is hostile. And science subjects and arts subjects and humanities complement each other. And therefore, you cannot have one group of teachers on an island far from others and you expect performance. So teamwork is lost because one group is fairly treated and the other group is completely deflated. And you have seen parents now forcing their children, you must take sciences. Now that is going to cause a danger where we are going. Because while we support the science and innovation, you cannot depend on that entirely and you say you are going for development. Forget it. And therefore you can
temperatures have been so high of late, and I do not know how you people are coping up, but I'm thankful that every morning when I get my day started, at least the kasana is not yet out. And for those that have forehead like me, I don't know what we're going to do. My name is Zakia Lucky, and I welcome you on the GMU Tourism Express. We've been discussing culinary tourism. We've talked about food hygiene. For those that have missed, we've talked about food presentation, hospitality, and yesterday we had to also bring you flavors of Ugandan foods. We have been discussing culinary tourism, and I like it that you people are engaging and sharing your experiences with us. We've been reading you these comments, and I have one more that came out from the previous show. And this comes direct from Raggy Belod. He says, I think in most restaurants, there's less promotion of local foods on their menu, and with us, the youth sometimes eating fast foods makes one feel fancy because they are usually served fancier than local foods are presented. Well, that's quite interesting, and I don't know how fancier dry foods are served compared to local foods, but let's add on to the spices on how to present these foods. Now, have you heard about Powate? Those events that bring color to our country, and that is the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo 2025. If you have attended this one, you know what I'm talking about. And this year's theme is tourism and sustainable transformation. Now, for me, I'm thinking about responsible tourism. I'm thinking about the environment. I'm thinking about culture sustainability. When we go back to responsible tourism, people in hotels, our waitresses and waiters that are serving us food, are you smiling to clients? How hospitable are you, and are you able to bring them back the next time? Previously, we've been running shows about hospitality. Were you able to pick one or two things? Most of you are missing out business, and this is a tip that you should be taking home. When you are hospitable, and simple gestures like a smile will motivate your clients to come back. Simple gestures like receiving them when they walk in, walk them towards the table where they're supposed to sit, pull out a chair for them. Those are things that we're highlighting. And we go back to our leaders. How have you been able to portray Uganda out there? Are you talking about the beauty of Uganda? We have so much going on in the country, but how we package and what we put out there also gets to affect the tourism industry. And this is something that we can learn from. Let's not only focus on the negativity, but also talk about the beauty. There's just so much we can talk about Uganda. So much that we can talk about Uganda. Talk about the foods, the dances, the languages. And it's not just about that, but we have even very many cultures that speak very many languages. And that's all waiting to be put out there and for the world to experience. We've seen entities like Miss Tourism Uganda that have come to communities and represented responsible tourism so very well through cleanups. Now there's this Let the Pearl Shine campaign. They've been going to regions, cleaning, and communities have been a part of this. And there's just so much going on that we can learn. As a young person or as any other, as a patriotic person, you should be a part of these things that portray responsible tourism. And coming back to my age group, the youth that are using social media, we are the ones that social media is a trend today, and there's so much that you can find on social media, but what are we putting there? And how are we putting it up there? There's so much negativity, and this is a call for you that we should look on the other side of putting up better things. Let's talk about the beauty of our people. Let's talk about what we learn every day. And from this particular expo, there's also so much that you can learn from, like skills. We have so many unemployed youth today, and when you get to visit this one, you can learn so much. Talk about the intricate crafts that people are showcasing. You can learn a skill, and before you know, you don't even have to move up and down looking for jobs, but you can become a boss or a CEO by yourself. So make it a point to get to Powate and explore all this. Now, people in the business world, a tip for you is don't forget your business cards, because this is a space that is going to give you an opportunity to interact and share your business with so many people that are going to turn out to become your clients. And also, and by the end of the day, you live a happy person. And the creatives, we've seen people like Senyo Derek that have put out Uganda's tourism through art. But when we talk about artists that are singing, when we talk about those that are painting, what have you done regarding promoting tourism in Uganda? That's a question for you. In whatever field you belong to, you can still promote tourism directly or indirectly. Talking about sustainability, we've seen so many people burn rubbish, which is very dangerous, but there's so much that we can use this. That's a very dangerous measure, and here's a tip that you can recycle, reuse these things. We've seen people use plastics to build houses. We've seen people use these as fencing walls. Others have used them for decoration, plant frames. So there's just so much you can use all these things for other than burning rubbish. And at the end of the day, we are impacting on climate. Talk about charcoal burning, talk about cutting down trees. I like what NFA is doing these days with, we are not only planting, but we are growing a tree. Are you just planting for photography? But how have you gone to nurturing? That is the growing that they're talking about. Let this plant grow into something that is going to be useful at the end of the day. Plus, if you're cutting down one tree, at least plant 10 more trees. So all those are measures that we can take up in this space of tourism and sustainable transformation. As someone that has been a part of the expo, I would like to take this opportunity to entice you to coming and be a part of this Poate 2025. Make it a point to be there and experience all that we have talked about, but also let us know what you think or what you look forward to experiencing. Remember, we are here from Monday to Thursday, 7:30 a.m. See you next time.
Now at about 7:45 p.m. Good morning, Uganda. Welcome back from JMU Tourism Express. Now it's time for business, and let's start off with the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Anita Among, who has received a petition from the Northern Workers leaders urging Parliament interventions to ensure fair regional balanced representation in the Parliament as we wait for the upcoming workers' election. Now the Honorable Speaker says that the matter will be referred to the Legal Department and Parliamentary Affairs Committee for review, and later actions will portray it. The Parliamentary Election Act provides for elections for worker members of Parliament as the interest groups, which is not exercised. But looking at matters, KCCA, Kampala Capital City Authority Executive Director Sharifa Buzeki has signed 7 contracts worth 176.5 billion for the construction and rehabilitation of roads under the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area Urban Development Project. Now the roads include Kira Road, Ntake Road, Nsambia Estates, Old Kampala and Muganzirwaza, among others. And these projects are expected to be completed within 18 months. Now, the Lord Mayor of Kampala City Authority, Elias Lukwago, says that the contractors are expected to deliver quality works. And Kampala City Council Authority's Executive Director, Sharifa Bozeki, wants contractors to adhere to the project schedule. Now, the State Minister for Kampala, Chofatogwabye Kabuye, expressed gratitude to the majority of contractors involved in the project for Ugandans, and the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area Urban Development Project remains KCCA's most effective strategy for improving infrastructure and driving economic transformation. And on that note, I urge you to plan effectively for your time, as we all know that such seasons come with inconveniences that come with road constructions. And on that note, as they say, time is money. Looking at startups, Ugandan startups have been urged to prioritize domestic financing over foreign loans to scale their businesses sustainably. Now, this call was made during the Ninja Acceleration Program engagement in Kampala, where 10 startups pitched their ideas with expectation of attracting funding from venture capitalists to expand their enterprises. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, in partnership with Japan International Corporation, have for the last 3 months engaged startups in Uganda, helping them scale operations and strengthen their regional influence. A commissioner at the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Dr. Joshua Mutambi, emphasized the importance of fostering local financing options to build a resilient startup ecosystem. Startups in Uganda, like many in emerging markets, heavily rely on grants and external funding, which, while useful, are not a sustainable model according to Ajay Ramasubramaniam, the founder of Hindsight Ventures. Ajay further outlined startup-friendly alternatives tailored to emerging markets. The Ninja Acceleration Program attracted interest from over 130 startups looking to scale their businesses. However, only 10 finalists had the opportunity to present their innovations to a local and global audience. Now, a delegation of social media influencers from Qatar recently embarked on a 7-day exploration of Uganda's breathtaking landscapes. At a press conference, they urged Ugandans to harness social media as a tool to boost the country's tourism sector. During their visit, the influencers were captivated by Uganda's stunning scenery, attributing its beauty to government's conservation efforts. However, one influencer raised concerns over the high visa costs for visitors entering Uganda. The delegation also advised the government to invest in uncovering more hidden gems, ensuring that tourists can fully experience the country's diverse attractions. Uganda's ambassador to Qatar, His Excellency Dr. Stephen Chemoiko Chebrot, expressed confidence in the continued growth of the tourism sector, emphasizing the need for sustained support. The Vice President of the Uganda Tourism Association, Mr. Kato Issa, encouraged the influencers to mobilize investors to explore opportunities in Uganda's tourism sector, fostering economic growth. Now, one of the influencers also praised the ambassador for his unwavering support and dedication to promoting Uganda. With its unique blend of natural beauty, rich culture, and warm hospitality, Uganda's tourism industry is reaching new heights. And on that note, I also look forward to Uganda's social media influencers crossing boundaries outside of Kampala and outside of Uganda at large with disciplined brands. But that's about it from Good Morning Uganda Business. Good Morning Uganda continues. Julie F. Nantaba Musisi is my name.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks, Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100*21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Coming soon on UBC.
Are you ready to take your fitness journey to the next level? Join the Sweat Squad by Sion. Coming soon to UBC TV. With expert guidance, cutting-edge workouts, and a supportive community. be unstoppable.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
International Women's Day is celebrated annually on 8th March. It is a time to reflect on progress made, to call for change and to celebrate acts of courage and determination play by women. On Saturday, 8th March, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate International Women's Day. The national celebrations will be held in Changwanzi district under the theme Accelerate Action for Gender Equality. The President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be the chief guest. Join us for the live broadcast to witness outstanding women receive medals in recognition of their achievements and contributions to the country. Happy Women's Day.
We're going to be talking about farming, but it's not me that's going to do that.
My name is Hava K. Luanga.
My name is Larry Charles K.
Let's go!
Mixed farm is a type of farming that involves growing crops and raising livestock. This is the spice garden and for the vegetables.
My first favorite spice has to be black pepper.
What's black pepper in Uganda?
Kamulali or mudagavu.
What? We're going to talk about the sechunga. We're going to see how big it is, as big as Larry's head. And then we're going to talk about the mangada. So we're going to get there. We have still so many farms to visit. And I would like to hear from you. This is the Little Farmer Show, and we are bringing coolness back to farming. See you!
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Maskari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, you're watching Good Morning Uganda, and I'm Olive Monica Najuma, your host. Now, this time is for our agenda segment. It's 3 minutes to the hour of 8 o'clock, where we will be having a conversation in our agenda segment. But before we delve into that, I would like to draw your attention to an announcement of a missing child. Twinobuhunjiro Loy Rashida, age 12 years, and according to her parent, she got lost. She got lost on the 22nd of February. That was on Sunday at 9:30 p.m. And she was living, at the time when she went missing, she was living in the areas of Lugala, and she has not been seen since. And the parents are looking for her, but they haven't been able to find her. So if you know any information regarding Twinobuhunjiro Loy Rashida, please reach out to the parents on the numbers that you see. But I could also repeat some of them: 0764 375099 and 0701 335832 and 0703 302672. You can report at the nearby police station in the event that you know the whereabouts of this child. Help us find her and bring her back to her parents. Well, that being said, we now get into the depth of our conversation, and today we will be speaking matters business. Now, as you may know, Uganda is often recognized for its entrepreneurial spirit, with approximately 10% of Ugandans starting a business. However, the country also faces a significant business discontinuation rate, which is at 20%, which indicates that Ugandan adults between the ages of 18 to 64 have discontinued business. This paradox places Uganda among African countries with the highest rate of business failure, alongside countries like Malawi, Angola, Zambia, Botswana, and Nigeria. So since we are good at starting businesses, why are we discontinuing our businesses, or why are our businesses failing? Reports also indicate that many businesses in Uganda don't live long enough to see their 5th birthday. And by 5th, I could even be being generous. Some experts indicate that sometimes they don't even live long enough to see their 2nd birthday. It's also another conversation when you look at the businesses that fail when the founder is probably dead, or they are faced with a life-changing situation like a chronic ailment. So there is so much really to look at here, but also there are businesses that are thriving. So in as much as we are looking at the high rate of business failure, we need to remember that there are some Ugandans whose businesses have thrived and continue to thrive. So we will be looking at that at a particular moment as well in the conversation, because we are not trying to spread the gospel of gloom here. Well, my name once again is Olive Monica Najuma, and I will be speaking to Mr. Francis Chisirinya, who is the Chief Membership Officer at the Private Sector Foundation, Uganda. Good morning, and you're welcome.
Good morning, Monica. Yes, I'm happy to be here, and good morning, our viewers this morning.
Okay, we are glad to have you, because everyone tells us that one, for us in employment, you can't get rich by working for someone else, so you need to have a side hustle or you need to start a business. But then there are also Ugandans who don't believe in employment, but in creating jobs and employment for others. So having all that into consideration, let us look at the current business landscape in Uganda. Mr. Chisirinya, could you provide an overview of the current business environment in the country, particularly concerning startup growth and sustainability?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning once again. First of all, Olive, let me first of all ask Ugandans and the viewers there to celebrate Ugandans for the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
It's true. If you really want to have big money, you must actually run your own business. That is a fact. And Ugandans have, for so many years, been an entrepreneurial group. And they do a lot to ensure that they bring, they add value, they bring resources to themselves, their families, and employ others. It is a very important thing, and we must celebrate it. I know there are countries across the world where the entrepreneurship spirit is actually declining significantly, and people are worried who are the people who are going to be able to run business and generate for us new ideas that will grow and sustain our economies. Because it is entrepreneurs that generate ideas that sustain and they grow economies. So for us, we are actually happy that the entrepreneurship spirit is there. Now, the kind of landscape that we are operating in as the entrepreneurship landscape today in Uganda is that if you look at it from the economic side, because entrepreneurs actually are operating within the economy. If you look at from the economy side, we are operating in an economy that has stabilized and fully recovered from the challenges of COVID. And we actually, government is now looking at accelerating growth through their 10 GDP growth strategy using particular sectors. So we are living in an economy that is ambitious and is where government is focused on growing it quite quickly. We are also looking at an economy which has, for a number of months and years, has managed to tame inflation to below 5%, meaning that the changes in prices of goods and services is not that very fast, meaning that planning is much easier, is much predictable, so entrepreneurs are better able to organize themselves and run their businesses very well. Also, the entrepreneurial landscape is, we are aware today, there is a research that has just come out, and I think Minister of Trade just published it, about the entrepreneurship index in Uganda, where it has been shown that Ugandan entrepreneurs as people, they have they have the right mindset in terms of attitude. They are very optimistic. They are well positioned to run the entrepreneurship journey. You know, they feel like that the human resources that they have is sufficient to support their businesses, but at the same time they are actually they have a growth mindset. So from the entrepreneurship side, I think from an attitude side, from the perspective of wanting to run the business, and from the perspective of the resources in terms of people that they would like to use to drive their businesses, I think it is not as bad. But what is a challenge to them is that the environment, the ecosystem under which they are operating is constraining them. When you look at a situation like, for instance, the resources they want to work with in terms of access to money, capital. Capital is a big issue. It's not very easy to get appropriate capital to work with. It's a challenge. The second one is there are issues to do with the technology. So those things are really affecting a bit in terms of how they operate. But I'll go into this later on, but I just wanted to paint a picture about how the landscape looks like at the moment.
Actually, we will start right there on the primary factors that contribute to the high rate of business failure in Uganda. You've talked about capital, but let's get deeper into that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So if you look at where many businesses that start up succeed in economies like in Europe, in economies like in the US, most especially in even other countries like Kenya, Egypt, Tunisia, and South Africa, the issue of capital is very important. ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about capital, the entrepreneur knows very well what capital is. It is that seed money and resources that you actually need to use to provide the goods and services. Now, without that, you are actually constrained from what you can actually do as an entrepreneur. So what do we see in Uganda? What we see in Uganda are 2 or 3 major challenges with capital. The first challenge is we don't have appropriate capital, you know? So if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm beginning up my business, what sort of capital do I need? I need capital that is patient, meaning somebody I can access money, which I can put in my business, but I'm not under any rush to pay back. Doesn't mean that I won't pay back, no. But at least there should be money which I can work with that can help me develop the capacity to start paying back. But unfortunately, if you look at our economy, the moment you get money, you are expected to start returning that money maybe in a month.
Yeah.
Now, just imagine what sort of business will you have actually engaged in that can allow you to do that. So there is the challenge of inappropriateness of money. And when you look at our businesses, most of the businesses that we get involved with, except businesses in trade, many of the other businesses we get involved in are long-term sort of businesses. If you go to agriculture, you know, it is, if you go to farming, for instance, growing crops, it's unlikely that even if you are in an annual crop, it's unlikely that you're going to get back money until after 3-4 months.
Yes.
Now, if you access money that is going where they need the money the next week or the next month, whatever view, you cannot actually be able to survive because you expect to get your money earliest in 4 months.
And actually with climate change, the seasons have also changed.
Yeah, you might not even... So what happens is that perhaps people are borrowing money for capital to put in the business, but also keep some to repay until when the cash flow comes. So all of that becomes a big burden to an entrepreneur and actually can fail. So that is one dimension of the capital. The second dimension of the capital is that it is costly. In a way that, for instance, if you go to borrow, the interest rates are quite high, and for many businesses, this is a problem. So that dimension is also an issue. The third one is that you cannot come. I think the accessing such money or money is not so easy. You know, it's not so easy because of the various requirements that are needed by the financiers. If you're looking, for instance, for private equity, which means that somebody will invest in your share capital, all right, and they contribute part of your share capital, and then that helps you to do your business. They expect you to have met a particular threshold. Many of them feel like, okay, if I'm contributing to your business, you must have put your own money, about 50% of it, so then now I can match that money.
So if you need, you want 300 million, you already have the 150. 150. And so then I'll get you the 150.
Yeah. Now you are starting up.
Yes.
Are you likely to have that sort of money? That is one. The second thing, they want you to have made some achievements. Show me how your business is operating. Are you profitable? How are the sales? How is the governance? Those things are important, yes, and it's a requirement. But for a person who is starting up, it's not very easy to put together. So that is one of the challenges. Those are some of the issues that are affecting our capacity of businesses to survive. Because when they need the money to help them expand or to help them sustain their businesses, they are not able to get it, and what happens is the businesses fail. So that is a challenge as far as the company is failing. The second one that has come up very strongly is the issue of access to technology. Okay, now today's post-COVID business, economic environment and business environment is there is dominance of technology in our businesses. Look at what you need to do as a business person, you know. If you want to transact, you need access, let me say, to mobile money. You need access to a banking system, and most of the banking facilities now are online. If you look at the issues, like for instance, to do with the compliance with the taxes, most of the tax transactions and operations are done online. That means that there is dominance of technology in what we do. That is just even to facilitate your business. That's not even the primary thing. But the primary technology, for instance, the type of machinery, the type of machines you want, the type of equipment you want, all these things are being driven by their advanced technology equipment. And technology keeps on changing all the time. Now, because of the challenge of access to finance and its cost and appropriateness, it is very difficult for entrepreneurs to work with appropriate technology. So in the end, what actually happens? What happens is that they are now going to have their products on the market at two possible scenarios. One, if the technology is inappropriate, it means the quality will not be the type of quality that you want. That is one. Two, if you are able to get the quality, then in terms of costs, you cannot compete with somebody who is working with better technology. So what happens is that when you go to the market is not going to be so sympathetic and so, oh, you know, this is a startup or this. What they want is a quality product at a price that is competitive. If there is another product, they are not going to look at your product.
And no one cares about your problems.
Nobody cares. They just are going to vote with their cash. You know, what gives me more value
for money
is what I take.
Exactly.
So nobody is going to excuse you from that. So in the end, entrepreneurs and businesses run out of markets, and that brings them down. Now, the third thing that is constraining companies is you can see growing the businesses, you have got to get into some markets that are more reliable, that pay more in terms of margins, that are wider. For instance, if you are an MSME, a small medium company in Uganda, you might, beyond supplying your environments, you know, you might want to supply bigger companies, you know, because they use your product. You might want to supply institutions. You might want to supply government. But I can tell you, you cannot get a deal, or nobody can actually hire you or buy your goods if your company is not registered. It's not possible. It's not complying with the tax regime. So when they ask you, those of you who are looking for businesses in institutions, say, okay, are you registered? What is your tax identification number?
None.
Business registration?
None.
You know, so meaning that being formal is one of those things that can help a business to grow, because it gives you opportunities to access better and bigger markets in institutions. Now, many of our MSME, or a number of our MSME and startups are not formal. And some of the reasons that they give is that it's fairly hard for them to access the registration facilities so that they register their businesses. Some of them feel they don't have enough information that can help them to actually register their businesses. When it comes to those businesses in upcountry locations, it is even worse, because you will find that the registration authorities in Uganda, Uganda Registration Services Bureau, it has upcountry branches, but those are at city level. So people who are operating in sub-national, maybe a district, sub-county, Gombola here and there, they don't have that opportunity to access registration services that quickly.
Do they even have the information?
So the information is not there. Where they can go quickly and register is not there. So those things hamper their ability to formalize their businesses. And in the end, they end up they end up failing to qualify to supply in markets that can actually help them to grow. So that is a hindrance, and it is important for the managers of our economy and policymakers to appreciate that particular fact and see what to do. Yes, we know there is a lot that has happened in terms of progress in registration of businesses, but still the business people are still raising some of those particular issues. So we need to also work on them. Now, the fourth thing that entrepreneurs have actually mentioned, which is constraining and affecting and failing progress of their business, and they end up failing, is there are not enough linkages among the various businesses and entrepreneurs. And the MSM it means that the support systems and structures that can help entrepreneurs collaborate, work together, share knowledge, identify market opportunities and other support opportunities. They are not as developed as it should be. You will see, I come from a membership organization, private sector foundation, and one of our biggest tasks is to ensure that we create those networks and linkages as PSFU. But you will see that not many businesses actually value being members of business associations. And yet we have business associations almost in every sector of the economy. Some are operating nationally, some are operating at regional level or at upcountry level, But not many businesses actually are part of these associations. And by not being part of those associations, it undermines their ability to network. So the linkages are not as strong. So meaning that the advice that they need, they cannot access it. So they end up moving and doing things on their own, which undermine their ability to actually succeed as businesses. So the issue of linkages is very strong. The companies have to know, and the SMEs must know, if I need services, for instance, I need to be supported to improve the branding my product. Who can I contact? Who provides those services? At what rates? What quality? And things like that. So they are not able to get that sort of information. They do not even know. And in the end, this undermines their work. So those are some of the things that create challenges. But having said that also, we know that as entrepreneurs, there are certain things which we also don't do very well. One of them is we don't put a lot of time in analyzing and researching about the businesses that we want to get involved in. If
Olive is selling shoes, and I think Olive's business is thriving,
yes.
So ingatezo no zikola, and I have the capital, so I will go and start up a business to sell shoes, but I don't know the intricacies of
you
that
don't get
business.
deep into it. It's merely, I don't know if this is, people just apply kind of like a smell test. If I see, I kind of see this shop is well stocked with the shoes, with what. It must be doing very well. There must be a lot of money here.
Yes.
So if I put a similar shop neighboring this one, I'm also going to go and make the money.
No, I'll give you an example. Like I know a small business, a makeup shop, makeup for ladies, and there are two on the same lane next to each other. One always is full, has clients waiting to be worked on. The next shop is always empty.
I think those are the things that we actually look out for. If you are preparing yourself for a business, even if you've actually used that test, you have seen that the other business is thriving, ask yourself, what exactly is bringing these customers here? Is it the customer care? You understand it. Is it the quality of the product? Is it the price? Is it the location? You know? What is it? But also find out, what does this particular customer, this particular business, what gaps does it have? So that in addition to doing what they are doing very well, better than them, you also are able to cover a very specific gap that is in their business. Then there you have a good chance of succeeding. So we fail to do adequate research and just get into businesses. We dive there without knowing the intricacies, and that becomes a problem.
Okay. Now, many entrepreneurs normally say, look out for the solution that you're creating or the problem that you are solving. Do you think that some businesses that are failing are because the person who opens the business does not have a clear understanding of what problem they are trying to solve in the sector that they're joining? Yes,
that is true. We have been told many times, and I think there is also research around it, that the entrepreneurs, our entrepreneurs in Uganda, most of us are necessity entrepreneurs. We want to solve our problems.
And the problem is always money.
And you know, I want to be rich, very rich. So you get into the business to solve your problem.
There is this thing people say, you
know, that one is also there. So now, when you get in to solve your business, but not to solve the business, the problem, you solve your problems, but not solving the problems of society. And therefore, maybe you'll be your own customer. So because you're solving no problem, you are not focusing on the problems in the society, you will not get the kind of response in terms of sales, customers. Therefore, your business will not actually thrive. So that is a challenge that is also faced.
Okay, and now going back a bit on the issue of access to funds, you did mention it as one of the the biggest hindrances when it comes to small businesses and startups. Now, according to the Africa Freedom of Information Center, they say that only 1% of government contracts are awarded to women-led or women-started businesses, and yet it is also estimated that 40% of businesses in Uganda are either started by a woman or led by a woman. So briefly, why do you think this is so? Why is it that of all the government contracts, only 1% goes to women?
Yeah, thank you. I think the first thing, and we must thank the women, by the way, you're even underrating. Yeah, in terms of businesses, we are seeing many women in business. There are some industries and sectors where women dominate. Like, for instance, if you look at the trade side, you have more women than men in that business segment. So we must thank them so much. Two, we have women that are not able to get into those lucrative markets that I talked about. Relatively, if you compare them with men, men have a better chance. And what are those things that are affecting women into getting those in those lucrative businesses? Now, we've been working as PSFU on this women segment for some time. And one of the things that I've mentioned that we've actually noticed, and has been supported by research now, is that women are disproportionately affected by failure to formalize their businesses. So women's businesses are really more informal than the businesses run by men, which means that they cannot supply government because government is looking for formal businesses. So one of the challenges that women don't have the information to allow them to formalize their businesses. So which undermines their being able to get into the government businesses. Now, the second thing is that the requirements in government, to supply in government, are a little bit high and might not be afforded by women businesses that easily. For instance, if you want to bid for a particular business or a particular contract, they tell you you must have done business of this type, you know?
And most women businesses are also female-oriented. You're going to find women selling shoes, selling clothes, selling food. Not, do you think we keep it safe?
No, we've got to do some work to help you, to help women get into other businesses. But importantly, is that the requirements are also not favorable, you know? You must have some bid guarantee of some sorts to do some businesses. Those bid guarantees, to get them in the banks, they require you to have a certain level of cash balance, or the requirements there are not appropriate for the women. So when you look at the qualifications, what they need, the women are not able to actually get them, and therefore they get disproportionately affected. The third thing is what you actually mentioned. What type of businesses are women engaged in? Yes. I think and I thank them that they put a lot of effort and time in things they know very well, and they are able to do them well. Maybe that is why they. So like now, some of those businesses, there is very little
return on investment.
Or even the demand in the government is very limited. For instance, if it is, I've not seen government advertising for a beauty parlor sort of services that we need these sorts of. No, they don't do that. So meaning that there is that mismatch between the businesses that women are doing
and what
governments actually appetite for. You can see the biggest businesses in the government are in terms of supplying, equipment, furniture, computers, then construction services, you know. There are some services that they also want, like consultant services, but we also know that some of those technical consultancies, or businesses, which these days they are called STEM, science, technology, and mathematical kind of
mathematics,
yes. So there are fewer women there. So meaning that they don't actually, even if they will be disproportionately affected in the way they supply. So the point would be, and we'll talk about it later, what must we do to ensure that we have more women?
Okay, we could look at that. Yes. What must we do before we move on to ensure that women pick that interest? Because from what you're sharing, my takeaway is that in as much as 40% of businesses in the country are started or owned by women, the interests or the kind of businesses they choose puts them at an inconvenient position when it comes to bidding for government contracts. So what do we do to interest women, first of all, to take up the business ideas that get the men the kind of contracts they get from the government?
Yeah, to start with, we must be deliberate. And I love the fact that the government and some of the institutions have created some preference schemes that can help women to get in and supply, you know, by giving them particular marks, you know, to help them supply. That is important. But also, we must be deliberate and help them to get to supply those things that we are buying. For instance, this is a technology era, and there is lots and lots of businesses around technology in the government, in the institutions. How do we make sure that we are able to interest a woman who was more in a salon, in a bit, and they are very successful and they are doing very well. So many branches, they are very strong business people. How do we interest them into diversifying into the STEM, the technology-related businesses? You know, what deliberate things can we actually do to let them know that you can supply computers, you can supply technology goods to government, and you make money too. So we need to handhold, we need to help them, we need to provide for them facilities that help them, first of all, give them information, secondly, handhold them, support them to really understand that these businesses are there and that this is what it takes to do those businesses. That will help, including having the few women who are doing those businesses to come out and talk and give others information that these things are actually we are actually able to do them. That is important to do, to bring in the women. The second thing is, let us look at the requirements also, you know, and relax them. If we know that the women will find a very big problem doing bid guarantees because of the historical problems we know with access to finance and how difficult it is for women compared to men, we can now make some exclusions and say, okay, women-led businesses, maybe there's no requirement for these sorts of guarantee,
no,
but we find for something else that
could work.
That could work for them.
I've had women saying that when banks come up with products for women, for loan facilities, they still, in the end, do not really favor women. So some of them are saying, we want collateral-free loans. If you're saying you're going to help women run businesses, then ease on the collateral, because many do not have the collateral that the banks want. Is that one of the solutions that you think could actually work?
Definitely, definitely. We must have some transformation that we transform from looking at lending from a security perspective. There should be new products or other products that can come in that don't focus so much on security. Okay. You can have products that focus on the business or the contract that the women are going to be doing.
Okay,
we
are understanding the high rate of business failure in Uganda, and I am speaking to Mr. Francis Chisirinya, who is the Chief Membership Officer at the Private Sector Foundation Uganda. If you have questions for Mr. Francis Chisirinya here, please feel free to write to us on WhatsApp number 0709-602-592. It's the same number that has been displayed on your TV screen. Now, Mr. Chisirinya, I would like for us to move on and look at the economic freedom and investment climate in Uganda. When you look at it, Uganda's economic freedom score is 59.7%, higher than the sub-Saharan average of 54.2%, but below the world average of 60.8%. How does this moderate economic freedom impact business operations and longevity in the country?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the issue around this is that how easy or the ease of doing business. You know, if you look at Uganda, yes, the economic freedom, I mean, I can contract, I can be able to enforce the contract, I can sell and price in a way that without all those restrictions. Yes, we are doing very well, but as you said, it is still low. Now, how does it affect the longevity of a company? This is how what actually happens. If you open a business, all right, and you would like to provide certain goods and to price them in some ways, you know, and sell these particular goods. Now, if you look at a situation like you are able, let me say, to enter into a contract and supply the goods, but the problem that you can face is in terms of enforcement of your contract. For instance, if the terms of the contract are not met by the person that you have supplied it to, you know, how easy is it for you to be able to enforce your contract? You know, it takes a long time in Uganda now to prosecute and have a civil suit. Civil are things that are not criminal. And this is where business, whatever disagreements are, most of them. It takes so long to have these cases actually resolved. So what happens is that you have money that will be tied so much into those kinds of disagreements. Now, if you don't have that money, how are you going to continue on? Meaning that the companies are going to fail because of that. So in terms of the freedom, one of the things that is affecting us and it fails the businesses is from an enforcement of the contract. To be direct is look at people who are supplying in government. We know very much that government, there are so many areas. People supply, they are not paid.
It's even known. Government it
takes long.
Yes.
So now, if you borrow, supply government, you know, and you're not paid in time, it means that you are going to be paying interest on that money. By the time it is paid to you, perhaps even your profit is gone. That is if you're lucky. But in some bad situations, in some cases, the banks have even already exercised their right and sold off your securities. So those things really affect the businesses. So enforcement is a big problem in my view, with respect to the freedom that you actually mentioned.
Okay. Now let's look at the informal sector and its challenges. We know that the biggest part of Uganda's GDP is attributed to the informal sector. And actually, when I look at the statistics, it shows that 50% of Uganda's GDP is attributed to the informal sector. But you did mention that when we talked about women, you did mention that most of their businesses are informal, and when it comes to issues like getting government contracts, you cannot get them if you are informal. But now looking at the informal sector, majority of it is, looking at our GDP, 50% being attributed to the informal sector. How would you say does this informality affect business stability and access to support systems?
Yeah, the informality is definitely, as I mentioned,
yes,
will undermine and disadvantage you if you want to grow the business. An informal business is difficult to grow it. Why? Nobody knows about you. You are not registered in a non-government with a non-government authority. You don't have records, or if you have the records, you keep them in whatever way you want, not in some standard ways that can be used by other people. You are not banking. You are not
taxes.
You are not paying taxes. You are not. So, so if that is the kind of business that you are running, it means you always have challenges in growing it to its full potential.
Okay.
So it will always be affected because of that. So definitely informality is not a good thing for our economy. No, it's not a good thing for our economy. And we have to find a mechanism as a country of how we can have businesses formalized, not only from registering them, the names, but even the transactions. Because also there are some companies that are formal, but some transactions are formal, others are informal.
Others are semi-formal. There is the attitude by Ugandans that when you formalize, then government is in your business. How do we shift that mindset to make them realize that actually informality hurts you more than the government being in your business?
I think we've that's a big point that you have raised. Why do people feel that the moment I formalize, then I've introduced government in my business? And let me ask a question: is having government in your business a bad thing?
Depends on which side of the spectrum
you are. So ideally, I think what should happen is for the authorities from the government side to be in a position to give information, rightful information, and be able to feature and demonstrate and showcase the difference between a company that is formal and a company that is informal. In people's communities, you tell them this business is formal, is doing very well. This business is informal, is not doing very well. I liked a story that I read one time. I think what I remember, I think one of the successful entrepreneurs, I think it was Mr. Augusta Ntake. I read one time. He actually told, he was advising, I was reading the newspaper, that if you refuse to pay taxes, it means you're not going to grow your business. You know, what he actually advised companies that formalize. Now, when the requirements for formalization, when you meet those requirements, it means they are going to even help you improve your business in terms of the structuring, the way you organize it, in terms of the way you govern it, in terms of the way you have your records, in terms of the way you do the business itself. So if you are able to be confident enough and say, I'll pay taxes, it means you're going to put the systems and structures in place that can allow you to pay the rightful taxes and you remain in business. Okay. Now, by doing it, it means you can be able to even supply other people, which is going to be making your business bigger. So I want government to pick up from this and be able to give information to people to counter the accusation or the attitude today where people say the moment you register, the next day it is you are in your business, the next day you can't do this, the next day your business is down. We are hearing a lot of that. It must be countered.
Okay.
Yes.
We are soon ending our conversation, but I have views coming through, and Muhimbura Benon says, good morning, UBC, Uganda. Thank you for the program. In Uganda, most business, I beg your pardon, in Uganda, most businesses fail to upgrade due to many reasons like low or no capital, but even the already existing ones face the problem of over-milking. Ugandans mostly live in deficit budget. The expenditure to cope up with cost of living all is based on existing businesses, which also includes bank loans. Hence, we get much out and put little in. There is a need to have more sources of income in order to let our businesses thrive. But if not, we are still in the struggling economy. All from Muhimbura Benon from Solid Rock High School, Arua City. Thank you, Benon. And Yasin says, I am Yasin from Bulenga. Thanks for the developmental program. I needed that. And then Hassan from Hoima says, for me, I want to talk about parish development model, Emyoga and others, put on by our President Museveni for all for the Bagagawale initiatives. But he's asking, is the president aware that clan members and leaders and parents, I think this is not related, I'm sorry. The last comment I'll share, this one is from Simon Mokisa. He says, I'm kindly inquiring how to join the supply database of Public Sector Foundation Uganda. And the next question is, getting work from government is not simple, especially for a new business. They also ask for experience of the business. How does a business go about this? I think you already answered this question, but question one, kindly inquiring how to join the supply database of Public Sector Foundation. And lastly, for the issue of tax, why should a new company pay taxes, especially VAT, for a government project? Mr. Kisirinya, your answers will also lead us to the end of our conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much, and it is pleasing to hear that we have viewers there. Thanks for the comments. Now, one, how do you get on the supply database of Private Sector Foundation in Uganda? One of the ways, or the only way you get onto that database, is to respond to the calls for expressions of interests, or calls for suppliers, which we publish every year. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you, use our website. This information is always there. The calls for expressions of interests for suppliers. So we list all of them, and when you put in your expression, there is a good chance that you will get onto our database. But not only that, even for those who are looking out for some of the grants that we have, we also put in calls for proposals. So get there, and if you qualify, please submit your proposal and benefit just like others are benefiting. Like today, as we have an open call for proposals for companies that are in export value-added products under our enterprise facilitation support program. The call is out. Please get on our website, www.psfuganda.org, www.psfuganda.org. You'll get that information and you'll get on our database. Now,
thank you.
Why should do? Okay.
There was another question, but unfortunately we've run out of time. But thank you so much, Mr. Francis. Mr. Francis Chisirinya here is the Chief Membership Officer at the Private Sector Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Olive.
Yes, it's been a pleasure learning so much. You can never cease learning, especially about business. Well, dear viewer, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Your views were still incoming. Unfortunately, I couldn't share all of them, but for those that have read out, thank you. And for those that I haven't been able to share, still, we thank you for being a part of the conversation. Now, I will catch you tomorrow at 6:30 in the morning, but for now, I'll leave you to Ruben Mpima, who is going to share with you the world of sports in our sports updates. Stick around.